Assalamu alaikum and greetings to all Aura readers. My name is Shaima and I welcome you back to our In Conversation series, where we speak to subject experts, thinkers and leaders and try to get their crucial view on a relevant subject of our times. Today, we are in conversation with S. Ameenul Hasan Sahab, life coach, motivational speaker, author and Vice President, Jamaat-e-Islami Hind. The subject of our discussion is love and mercy in marital life. So to begin, in your understanding, what constitutes a healthy and positive marital relationship and family life?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I have been dealing with marriage life in training sessions and in coaching sessions and in counseling sessions. This has been a passion for me. What I found to be a very important aspect of relationship between marital couples is that the lowest level is it's all about me. This is the narcissist way of looking at relationship. Me first, my decision. It is my way or the highway. And the other partner has just to listen and obey my commands. Otherwise must be prepared for negative consequences. That is the lowest level. It's all about me. A little matured level of relationship, it's all about us. And that the marital couples reach an understanding either before marriage or because of circumstances after marriage that you look after yourself, I'll look after myself. You take care of yourself, you take care of your needs, I'll take care of my needs. And let us be together as husband and wives. This is the second level, a little matured level of relationship. The best relationship to be admired at is it's all about you. It's all about me, it's all about us, it's all about you. Each partner considers the other partner to be more important than himself or herself. It's all about you. In terms of requirements, financial requirements, educational requirements, in terms of recreation, or maybe even in terms of emotional aspects of life, partner considers the other person to be most important and cares for him or cares for her. So this should be the best way of maintaining a healthy, good relationship between marital couples. It's all about you. You stand first before me. Yeah.
That's a very interesting view because a lot of our discussions in public life around marriage evolved purely about rights and duties or about what I can get out of this. But Islam posits an alternate view. So could you expand on the concepts of love and mercy for our readers and why they are signs for us to reflect upon, as the Quran tells us?
Yeah, Quran in Surah Ar-Rum, Surah number 30, verse number 21, it says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Among his proofs is that he created for you spouses among yourself in order for you to have contentment, in order for you to have peace of mind. Some of the translators have translated the word litaskunu ilayha as peace of mind. And he placed in your hearts love and mercy, mawadda wa rahma, love and mercy for the spouses. Indeed, there are signs in this for the people of knowledge, for those people who think. This is the verse, roughly I have translated. See, there are three levels of love. The lowermost level is called as passionate love, which is basically the physical aspect of love. The second one is connectedness, bondedness, togetherness. This is the social aspect of love, which we call it as companionate love. And the third one is commitment for life. That is the spiritual dimension of love, And this, we call it as compassionate love. When I deal with marital problems, particularly with the spouses, when they are sitting across, I ask them to name one thing which is very vital for the marriage to sustain happily. Some of my clients, they tell by themselves, and for some people, I tell them, I let them know that love is the bedrock over which the whole edifice of marriage institution stands. Love. But unfortunately, people know very little about love. What they know about love is what they hear in cinemas. That is infatuation. That is, lowest level of love. If you want me to tell one positive, emotion that exists in the universe, the only positive emotion is love. Rest of all positive emotions emanate from this love. When we say that God loves us, then He nourishes us. He takes care of us. He pardons us. He listens to us. He responds to us. So one positive element, the purest element which exists in the whole universe is love. And out of that positive emotion, hundreds of positive emotions emanate. So between the spouses also, it is love which is very important. When love exists, then everything exists in the house. When there is no love, it is only a material relationship, an adjustment for life to move on, then you have so many problems at home.
So, like you spoke about the idea of tranquility, sukoon. And the other thing that you said is that, so there is a lot of understanding of love that people derive from, whether it is from films or whether it is from society. And in the end, you just spoke about adjustment. So one of the things that people are often told is to adjust, right? But if you were to advise, and I'm sure you do in your many of your interactions, for newly married couples or those who are looking to get married or about to get married, what would be the foremost advice that you would give to establish a relationship and home filled with tranquility and peace?
See, in social psychology, a lot of studies have been done on stability of marriage. What exactly constitutes towards the stability of the marriage institution? And out of many studies, there is a convergence, almost convergence on three factors. One is similarity between the couples. Similarity of ideas, similarity of thoughts, similarity about, worldview. When two partners having two different worldviews, that means a train running in two different directions, which is impossible to reach the destination. So, the first and foremost thing for couples to have, a beautiful relationship or a stable marriage is that before marriage, one has to see the compatibility, similarity. Most often youngsters, they overlook this. They neglect this aspect of life. Similarity. Then the second thing which is very important for the stability of a marriage and for the people who are would-be to get married, they must remember this, is that couples complement each other. When you find that your spouse is missing some important element for the family, then you need to raise to the occasion, grow taller, and have that complementary trait which can offset the negative trait of your spouse. That is the second thing, complementary trait. You get my point? Suppose my wife, say for example, suppose my wife is introvert. She is not like that. Just for the sake of example, I am telling you. Suppose she is introvert. And to run a bigger family, larger family, one has to be extrovert. So I need to compensate, complement the thing which I feel missing in the spouse. So I need to be extrovert. So this is what we mean by complementary trait. And the third thing is sexuality, which is very, very important. It is not about the quantity. It is about the idea of sex. It is not an animal act. It is not just a biological act. It's purely human act, spiritual act. It has to be filled with creativity. And what I have seen in my sessions is that people who are happier in bedroom affairs, they have a happier life outside. And those who do not have, a fulfilled bedroom issue, if they don't have tranquility, peace, then the spillover of that problem you find in many other ways. It just comes out in many different forms. So basically, for a marriage to sustain happily, the sexuality is very important factor, and youngsters needs to learn from Islamic literature. They need not learn from all those platforms, media, wherein the idea of sex has been downgraded just to animal act. So people, youngsters needs to learn from Islamic perspective what is it and how one has to find contentment and tranquility and peace in that act. That is very vital, that is very important for marriage.
Well summed up. So, coming to a more material debate, the Quran clearly states that Allah will provide the means for the sustenance of those unmarried men and women who choose to marry. Consequently, it is understood even commonly that making this good decision brings risk into our lives. But nevertheless, financial issues and other doubts often lead the youth to put off marriage, sometimes even entirely. So, what practical advice would you have for such youth who are struggling with such decisions?
Yeah, even when I speak to youngsters, they have a lame excuse for not getting married at earlier age, is that they want to settle in life. But when I say what exactly the idea you have to settle in life, a boy of 25 years, if he looks at Ameenul Hasan, who is around 54 years, and if he wants to settle like him, then again he needs to wait for 30-35 years. One has to look what was Ameenul Hasan at the age of 25 when he got married. So people generally, they have a vague idea what it means to be settling in life. To me, to settle in life, one has to have peace of mind. One has to have somebody to support. One has to have ideas. And in earning, one has to have two brains to think and plan. Look from four eyes, and that is possible only after marriage. You become smarter. You have wider idea. You have different perspectives of looking at things. So youngsters fail to understand that for settling in life, one has to have peace of mind, and that you can get only through marriage. Yeah.
So, we spoke earlier about like affection in marriage, but something that is sad is that even in modern young couples, even those who choose to get married, quote unquote, affection, fondness and genuine love for each other is something that is often missing, perhaps in the daily grind of life or whatever the reasons are. So, can you give us some examples from the Prophet's life, the Seerah, that offer examples of positive communication and genuine affection between spouses?
You say that affection, fondness, love are missing in modern marriages. Of course, it's an issue. It all depends upon your perception about your partner. Suppose if I feel myself as a king, then I look upon my wife as a queen. If I am the storm of peace in my home, my wife is the storm of light. If my home is a garden and I suppose myself to be as a gardener, then my wife is a beautiful flower. So it all depends upon the perception. Contrary to this, if I believe myself as the boss, then I'll treat my wife as a servant. If I suppose myself as owner, then she becomes slave. And the whole conversation between husband and wife will come down to the level of an owner and a slave. Those who love their wives are kings. Those who hate their wives, basically they hate themselves. They have an issue with themselves. Now coming to the second component of your question about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's communication with his wives. Let me tell you one thing. He used to have normal communication with his wives. Those were private talks. Nobody knew them until some time. After his departure, his wives made all those conversations public. They narrated them in public. They were declassified, which were later came to be known as hadiths. Amazing, isn't it? Those hadiths tell us about the communication of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how gentle he was, how kind he was, how supportive he was, how he helped his wives by his conversations to grow intellectually, to mature. Now the question is, if our conversations, whatever as spouses we had in the past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, one partner decides to make them public, do we dare to make it public? Mostly we will not like it. Presuming that our conversations do not have toxic in it, in spite of that, we would believe that it doesn't contain anything which would be useful for the society. So, from this perspective of communication of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what we learn is that we need to speak to our wives, to our partner in a beautiful way, in a complimentary way. The transaction should not be ulterior. The transaction between husband and wife should not be crossed. Rather, it should be complementary. We should use positive language, resourceful language, in a way that both the partners grow intellectually, emotionally. And we should have such a conversation that we should be bold enough at least to expose them before our children, before our family members, so that they get certain tips to lead a beautiful and happy life.
So coming to our final question, something that we have not discussed yet, what role do children play to strengthen the bonds of marriage?
That's a tricky question. Yeah, that is a tricky question. In the books of psychology, what it is said is that once you become parent, the satisfaction of sexuality feels to be declined, particularly in male. Because the female, of course, the love has not diminished. But a human baby needs at least 2 years of continuous protection, care and love. So the mother, she has to divide her love, she has to divide her time between the partner and the children. Okay? So sometimes those who are not matured enough, those couples who do not have this, as I said, companionate love or compassionate love, they feel that I am being neglected. And thereon, some rifts starts. So there are a lot of studies after having children, problems creep up. But if the love is sound, if the love is holistic, as I said before, then children do really play a very important role in bonding husband and wife, keeping them together, and they work together for the betterment of their offspring. And every parent, be it mother or father, they are the only people on the surface of earth who feel that if their children go ahead of them, they never feel jealous. They are the only people who cherish, who desire that their children should touch the skies, which they could not.
Thank you. So with that, we come to the end of our interview. We have discussed the 3 fundamental concepts of love, mercy and tranquility, and also many problems that are very perhaps not unique to our time, but getting more and more troubled in our times, whether that is of material questions, whether that is of loss of affection, and so on and so forth. But our speaker today has answered them in very concise and very crisp ways. And I think the biggest takeaway for me, at least from this, would be the idea of declassifying our conversations and what would we look like and what would our relationship look like if somebody were to read them or go through them 30 years later. Are we ready to face that? So thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back with another video in the future, inshallah. Thank you.